I'm Bailey Armour here on the backside of Santa Anita Park with goats, with chickens, and with Julie Witt. We're right outside the Phil D'Amato barn after taking a little ride around the backside here at Santa Anita to see how everything's about. Now, Julie, I know that you've worked for the Phil D'Amato barn for a long time. You've been to a couple different racetracks here in California, Los Alamitos and Del Mar. What can you tell me about how training over the Santa Anita turf course and dirt course differs than the courses at other tracks in California?
So the first big difference I would say is, unfortunately, here at Santa Anita, while we have an amazing world-class turf course, we don't get to work on it or use it unless we're racing, unlike Del Mar, where we get to work, we can submit horses to work on the grass twice a week, which they all really enjoy, especially for our barn being so turf heavy. But instead we used to have a training track, and they completely redid it and unveiled it this winter. We have a brand new tapeta surface that's seemingly doing pretty good. And the horses seem to enjoy it. It's taken a little bit to figure out, and as the track breaks in, but so far all thumbs up here. We spend a lot of time, Phil, with the previous training track and now with the tapeta, we train a lot of our turf horses on it. He feels that it mimics the surface of turf. They transfer really well over it. So we spend a lot of time there, and then we've got quite a few dirt horses actually now that train on the main, and we'll train some of our turf horses, on the main as well. It's kind of a horse by horse basis, but it's a great surface. The track team here does a phenomenal job, so it's a great place to be and to train horses. And I would say across the board, all three tracks here down in Southern California, they've got great surfaces, and it's kind of just a matter of adjusting and figuring things out, and treating each horse as an individual and figuring out what they like best.
It's so funny that you say that Phil likes to work on the synthetic and then run horses on the turf. That's one of my biggest wagering angles. Not really a secret one, but I find that synthetic training to turf racing is a really, really good handicapping angle.
Yeah, so Sunday and Monday typically are big work days here at the barn, and for those of you that haven't been to Santa Anita, the main work break is at 7:15. So if you show up at 7:15 on a Sunday or a Monday, we've got about, Phil's a little greedy, we've got about half the jocks room will be standing out here, and we've kind of got a mini army that goes out every week, which is a kind of cool thing to be a part of. But he really utilizes that synthetic course.
Yeah.
And then at Del Mar, when we have the ability to throw them over the turf.
Yeah, well, we love to see that, especially those turf runners from the D'Amato barn. Now, speaking of turf runners, Balnikov, one of the biggest horses in the barn here, won the Dinner Party Stakes on Preakness Day earlier this year and is eligible for an additional bonus in the First Grand 3 program as he runs in the California Crown John Henry Turf Championship. I know, a long race name, right? It's a mouthful. On Saturday.
I don't know how they fit it on the saddle cloth. They just dropped off the barn this morning.
There's like 5 lines of text on the saddle cloth. Now, what can you tell me about his chances in this race going up against other D'Amato horses in the same race, like Gold Phoenix, Rock Emperor, and Divine Propos?
So, first of all, we're very, very fortunate with the owners and the horses that they've brought in the barn, and just the way Phil's organization has gone, that fortunately and unfortunately, it's not an uncommon occurrence for us to have, again, it's very fortunate to put 4 horses in a big stake like this and run against each other. So he's doing exceptional. He is a really cool horse to be around. He's not the biggest horse. He's very solid, and he wouldn't know it. He thinks he's about 10 feet tall. He's got the heart the size of Texas, and if you watch him work or race, he pins his ears as far back as they can go. He kind of drops his body down like a little race car, and he just digs in. One of my favorite memories of Balnikov is watching him win, watching the jockey cam and the drone footage of him winning the Oceanside at Del Mar the first year that we had him, and it was a tight gap, and Umberto just shook the reins at him and kind of chirped to him, and he said, very small hole, and he just went through it like it was nothing. He's very game, and it's turned out we've kind of been figuring him out as he's developed into an older horse now and is competing against olders versus our first year that we had him when he was just 3. He likes a little bit longer distance, and so he's had some success this past season stretching out. Obviously, we shipped him to Pimlico, and he pulled that off. He really likes shipping. It seems to be like he also likes turf courses with a little bit more give in the ground, such as Del Mar, or we sent him up to Golden Gate. He's won at Keeneland. He's won at Pimlico. So it'll be interesting from the perspective of getting him back over the turf course here at Santa Anita if he likes it as much, now that we're stretching him back out. In terms of other horses in the barn, again, very lucky that we're sending out Gold Phoenix, who is looking to continue on his path. It looks likely, knock on wood, that he'll return and make another appearance, his third consecutive appearance in the Breeders' Cup. He ran an absolute lights out race last year. He was the highest placed US-based horse in the Breeders' Cup turf, which was a huge accomplishment. He ran absolutely massive. We were all screaming like we won. I think we might have been the happiest group of people to get fourth that weekend. But we were very proud of him and proud of the horse that he's developed into. He can be a little bit tricky mentally, which I think is why Kyle is a very good fit for him. He's a horse that you kind of have to keep engaged. If you've watched his works or just seen him in the past, he's a horse that can go 59 or 103 just as easy in the mornings. It's just a matter of how engaged and convincing you are to make him go to work. But him and Kyle seem to get along pretty well, and I mean, he just came off a great victory in the Del Mar handicap, so knock on wood, he's going to be a tough contender. And then we've got Rock Emperor, who is our resident grandpa. He's 8 years old, but he doesn't know that. Jess just got on him this morning and jogged him and came back laughing, saying that he must think he's 3. He was bucking and
feeling good, huh?
Yeah, he was bucking and playing and feeling fresh. Nothing terribly naughty, but just feeling good. And we do our best to take care of him and manage him accordingly. And just take care of him. He's run great for us, knock on wood, since he's been out here. He's a super honest, kind horse. He ran really well in the San Juan Capistrano, but he had a troubled trip, and then he ran really well last out in the Del Mar handicap. So he's probably overdue to get his winner's photo taken, so definitely wouldn't count him out. And then we've got kind of the outlier of the 4 is a newer horse. He came in from Europe this year named Divin Propos, and he has done quite well. He's gotten 2 victories out here in California, and we're putting him into Greatest Stakes Company for the first time, and it's a pretty tough field. So, he's been training really well, and he's done well in his races out here so far, but he's going to have to take a big step up if he, wants to take down one of those 3 or anybody else in the field. But it seems like, knock on wood, he should fit and put in a big effort.
Sure. Well, it sounds like we've got all of these turf titans and some newer dirt horses to the barn. Looking ahead to the Breeders' Cup out at Del Mar later this fall, I know that the D'Amato barn is seeking their second Breeders' Cup victory after a win in the 2016 Turf Sprint. What can you tell me about any of your horses targeting the Breeders' Cup?
So, knock on wood, it seems like we'll have a group of horses, again, very fortunate to be in that position to send a horse, period, but to also send a group and some pretty live horses is a great position to be in. We've got a couple weeks left to the Breeders' Cup, so a lot is going to depend on this week and next week, especially in some of the juvenile divisions. But knock on wood, if everybody runs well and then we bubble wrap them until November, fingers crossed. We should have, hopefully Gold Phoenix will go to maybe every year he's improved his placing in the Breeders' Cup turf, so maybe we can go a couple higher this year. But he'll target the turf. Motorius will target the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. He's another horse that ran last year. He is extremely, extremely talented, and he was a heavy choice last year in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. At Santa Anita, he had a little bit of trouble in his trip, which when you're going 5 furlongs against a top-class field.
Yeah, it just breaks the race.
Yeah, it doesn't make your job any easier anyway. And, it's going to be at 5 furlongs again this year at Del Mar. Granted, he absolutely loves Del Mar, but again, it's the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. You've got a horse like Cogburn coming in, horses from Europe. They're never easy. So, but ironically, he is raced by Mr. Fanicola, Tony Fanicola, who was our last Breeders' Cup winner, and it's the same race. So maybe we'll get a little bit of luck there. We've got 2 fillies targeting the Breeders' Cup distaff. Desert Dawn, who has run in several Breeders' Cups. She ran in the Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies at Del Mar when she was 2. She's been a part of the barn for quite a while, and we've always got a soft, she's the queen. We've got a soft spot we call her the Queen of Arizona.
Of course.
Because she's the only Arizona bred to run in a Breeders' Cup, and she's the highest earning Arizona bred of all time. And Mrs. Krim is a lovely, lovely woman. She supported Phil for many years, and that's her pride and joy. So it'll be bittersweet because it might be her swan song, but we're looking to bring her back. She ran huge last year as well, And then we've got an interesting new shooter in that race in Shea Vasora. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. She was bought out of Argentina after her win in Urin victory down there for the distaff. So she's going to probably run once before that race, but she's an interesting new face. We've got a couple babies that, knock on wood, over the next couple weeks will confirm their tickets. One of which being Vodka with a Twist.
Yeah.
She ran an absolutely huge race last out at Del Mar to just get nailed on the wire in a grade 1. And I've got to give a huge credit to all the team back in Kentucky with our Kentucky string. She was bought privately out of a Keeneland or Churchill race. And they've worked really hard. She was pretty green and needed a lot of work mentally, and they did a really, really good job kind of going back to basics and developing her both physically and mentally. And so then she came out here ahead of the Del Mar season, and she's proven that she belongs. So hopefully we'll be getting her there. We've got Thought Process, who won the Del Mar Juvenile Fillies Turf. And she's won her 2 starts on turf very convincingly, so she'll run most likely. Here in the Surfer Girl, we'll kind of let her tell us and let Phil and the owners discuss, but that looks like a likely start for her before the Juvenile Fillies Turf, so knock on wood there. And then we've got an interesting colt by the name of Ironman Cal, who is another collected, like Thought Process, and we swapped him, in his second start, he won very impressively at Del Mar over the grass, and so he'll run in the Zuma Beach here in 2 weeks, and, if he runs quite well, it would look likely that he would maybe go to the Breeders' Cup in the juvenile turf. I'm trying to think if there's anybody, of course, Stronghold. He's probably been one of our most exciting horses this year, bringing everybody to the Derby for the first time.
Yeah.
So knock on wood, he gets home tonight, Tuesday, from Pennsylvania after, again, he always shows up. And so everything going well, he'll train up to the Breeders' Cup Mile. Dirt mile, I'm sorry.
The dirt mile, sure. Wow, that is so much to remember. I don't know how you keep track of all of that. You've got certainly a full barn here and plenty on your hands. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Julie. We'll keep an eye out for all of these D'Amato horses in the California Crown this weekend.